So you want to mount the motor to the robot base. And that seems like an easy task, but it becomes pretty hard for a new team. So the easiest, there's many ways you can do this, but the way I seem to like the best is to use a strip of PVC. So the idea is we're going to cut off a strip of PVC and slice it and flatten it, and then we're going to get it to U over the motor, and we're going to screw it into the board. So I got a bunch of stuff to make this easier, and so I'll take you step by step. But the first thing we need to do is just cut off a 1.5 inch strip here to match the 1.5 inch is on the motor. So I mark it, and we're going over here to the chop saw. Alright, so I have my PVC chopped, and I'm going to have to split this. A few notes on the chop saw. If you have a chop saw, then go ahead and do it that way, except know that your blade, if you use it on PVC, it's going to be dull, and you might have to replace it if you're sharing it with somebody else. So make sure you have a throwaway blade that you're willing to ruin on the PVC. If you don't have this, if you don't have a chop saw, you can do it with a hand saw, no problem. It just takes a little bit longer, it's not as quick. Now I just need to put a split on one side so I can eventually heat this up and flatten it out. So that's what I'm going to do now. Okay, so I have my 1.5 inch strip of PVC that's split now, and now I want to heat it up and flatten it out. And I have a heat gun, although there's other ways you can do this. If you don't have a heat gun, which they only cost about $25 at Lowe's or Home Depot, you can also put it in an oven. Don't put it too hot. I forget. I wouldn't put it much over, say, 250, and check on it often. But whenever you do this, it outgasses some chemicals. So 2 things you need to do: make sure you're in a well-ventilated area, and make sure the person's oven that you're using doesn't mind that chemicals are being let off into their oven, which can be absorbed by leftover food particles in the oven. So if you have a shop oven, that would be great. It'd be hard to convince most moms to give up their oven for this cause, but heat guns are cheap. So just apply it with high heat, evenly apply the heat over the whole thing until it starts getting floppy. And once it heats up, then we're going to press a board on top of it. And I'm just going to use this board right here. So I'm going to heat it up, lay it out flat, and then press on it until it cools down and is flat again. Just a note, PVC, although it's going to get very hot, is an insulator, so you can touch it for short amounts of time while it is very hot. If you are worried about burning yourself, then put some gloves on, but as long as you touch it very briefly, you're really in no danger of burning yourself. A lot of people are tempted to press it as soon as you can get it to plop out like this, but I make sure I apply some more heat over all of it until I can make sure it's going to get truly flat and there's not any little curves left. And that's it. You just put pressure on it for a little while, and out comes a piece of really straight PVC. And while this is doing it, the next step is going to be able to put it over the motor and get it shaped directly to the motor. So what's going to happen is you're going to have 2 thin pieces of metal or of wood, and you're going to put the motor between it. That's to keep it whenever I put the PVC over it. It doesn't go all the way down. So whenever I put my bolts on there, you have some room to actually do some clamping. If you go all the way down to the surface you're going to bolt it on, then it won't actually do any grabbing. So it's important to have these 2 pieces, and then you're going to lay the PVC over the motor, and then you're going to press it with 2 other blocks of wood so you get a nice clean motor mount. Let's see how ours is looking. So looking pretty good. So we got a nice flat piece of PVC. Okay, so I'm going to heat it up again just in the area that's going to go over the motor mount, which is just this little section over here. The rest of it can stay straight. And we possibly will get another motor mount out of the other half of it. Okay, so I'm going to start, and I'm going to put one edge of it in here. Go ahead and press down on it with the board. Then I'm going to lift this up, put the motor in, wrap the motor around, and press down on this side. And I'm not going to get it the first shot, I can tell. I need to heat it up some more. So. Well, I'm going to try a different tactic. Who knows if this one will work. Go ahead and put the motor there and then put it over and then do the swishing. Okay. Try to get the PVC square to the way the motor is aimed. Since it's on the metal, it should wick away the heat pretty quick. I think this one is going to look good. Oh yeah. This is probably a little shorter than I would have wanted it. I probably would have wanted more sticking out here, but I think it's going to work. So the next part is to cut this off, and we're going to have to put a hole pattern in here so we can bolt it down. So I made this where you could put holes an inch apart here, and that from the holes on this side to that side are going to be 2 inches. So inch and then 2 inches this way. So somebody else that's doing the robot base could easily put the 1 by 2 inch hole pattern in there, and you can just bolt this down onto it. I'm going to go ahead and cut off my excess here. So I don't need anything past this point here. So I'm going to go cut this off with the chop saw. There's a problem cutting PVC on the chop saw. You can easily crack it and splinter it and have it throw shards. So you have to go really slow. I would suggest doing it by hand. I don't really have a good hand saw, so I'm going to have to do it on this. And you want to start, instead of doing it like this and getting the blade to hit the flat area, you need to do it like this. So you're going to start cutting the small area first, and this will keep your chips down. Okay, so I have my mount pretty much. Couldn't look better, but this will work. So I put it at the edge, kind of. I'll turn this around so you can see here's my marks, and I kind of center it where I want this, and put it there, and just use the marks to find where I'm going to place my holes. So I have my 4 marks. I'm just going to go drill them, and I'll have everything I need. So I have a nice PVCU with holes that match my hole pattern here, which on my robot base, if that's what it is. And I can place the motor in here and bolt it down. And I'm using number 8 bolts because you have like 100 of them in your robot kit, and it's a pretty good size. So, you're going to be bolting through these holes, and I drilled the holes 3/16 because that's a good, good bit size, so that number 8 bolts go right through. And just going to bolt through these. But to make this hold a little bit more positive, although this would hold just fine by itself, we need just a little bit of rubber. So I'll take some inner tube and I'm going to cut, about an inch of it off. Okay, so I cut a little section of it off. Scissors work fine for doing this. I just don't have scissors on me right now. Okay, so I get a strip of rubber and I can just place this on the motor like so and pop it into the motor mount. And you can tell already that the motor mount really just grabs that rubber. And then you just put your bolt through. And then just gently tighten all these. It'll hold amazingly well without being really tight at all. And if you're afraid of these nuts coming undone, grab some of the thread locker out of your Best Robotics kit. And I can really try to move this now, and it's not going anywhere. This is one of the most solid motor mounts I've ever seen. If you can do the same kind of thing with the metal tape, just easily wrap the metal tape that you have in your kit over here and put rubber underneath it too. I just like the look of this one better, and it holds over a wider area, and I like melting PVC, so here's a pretty easy motor mount for you to make.